The National News Desk, locally covered, nationally connected. Crime crackdown. President Trump announces a federal takeover of D.C. police, calling the National Guard into the country's capital, what it means for D.C. and which cities could be next. Then, hurricane season is heating up. The storm that's expected to become the Atlantic's first hurricane of the season within days. And a setback for prosecutors in the Ghislaine Maxwell sex trafficking case, what a judge just ruled regarding Jeffrey Epstein. This is the National News Desk, America's News. Now, I'm Dee Dee Gatton. We are so glad you're starting your week with us. And we begin with some sad news. At least 3 people are dead after a shooting at a Target store in Austin, Texas, according to police. The suspect is in custody. Police say he appears to be 32 with a mental health history. Several roads nearby are closed. Of course, we will continue to track this developing story and bring you the latest information as it comes in. Right now, crews are searching through the rubble for one person who is still missing after an explosion at a U.S. Steel plant near Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Authorities say one person is dead and at least 10 others are injured following the explosion this morning at Clairtown Coke Works. This plant is considered the largest coking operation in North America, and it's one of 4 major U.S. Steel plants in Pennsylvania. The CEO of U.S. Steel said the company is working with officials to investigate the cause of the explosion. The president has declared a public safety emergency in the nation's capital and announced a plan to take over Washington, D.C.'s law enforcement, promising to end crime and clean up the Capitol. As the National News Desk, Matt Gelka reports, the federalization includes activating 800 National Guard troops as crime is already trending down in the city.
This is Liberation Day in D.C.
The president announced a federal takeover of Washington, D.C.'s police department, along with the deployment of National Guard troops in the nation's capital. It's an effort to fight what he believes is out-of-control crime.
And we're getting rid of the slums, too. We have slums here. We're getting rid of them. I know it's not politically correct. You'll say, oh, so terrible. No, we're getting rid of the slums where they live.
The crackdown also comes with the promise of using federal police and agents in city streets, a pledge to bring an active military if necessary, and Trump didn't rule out trying to do the same in other cities.
We have other cities also that are bad, very bad. You look at Chicago, how bad it is. You look at Los Angeles, how bad it is. We have other cities that are very bad. New York has a problem. We're starting very strongly with D.C., and we're going to clean it up real quick.
A recent alleged attack on a former DOJ staffer in D.C. who was left bloodied after trying to stop a carjacking seems to be playing into the federalization push. The city also had to implement curfews for minors after large groups of teenagers had been vandalizing different areas. The administration says they'll try to do away with no-cash bail nationwide while trying to enforce harsher punishments for young people starting in D.C.
They know that we can't touch them. Why? Because the laws are weak. We need to go after the D.C. Council and their absurd laws.
D.C. police data shows violent crime is trending down, although the White House disputes those numbers.
I believe that the president's view of D.C. is shaped by his COVID-era experience during his first term. We experienced a crime spike post-COVID. We have been able to reverse that 2023 crime spike.
The president has the authority to take over the D.C. Police Department under the Home Rule Act for 48 hours or up to 30 days. Anything longer would need approval from Congress. Reporting in Washington, I'm Matt Gelka.
The trial for California's lawsuit against recent National Guard deployments is underway. A federal judge is hearing arguments on whether the Trump administration broke the law by deploying thousands of National Guard soldiers and hundreds of Marines to Los Angeles following immigration raid protests. Pentagon data shows about 250 National Guard troops are still in place. Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. visited the CDC today to meet with employees after Friday Friday's shooting outside the Atlanta headquarters. A spokesperson for HHS said Kennedy, quote, unequivocally condemned the horrific attack. It comes after some fired government health workers called for Kennedy to resign, claiming his comments about vaccines could have contributed to the shooting. The suspect had claimed the COVID vaccine made him sick. A family of 6 is dead following a house fire in Waldorf, Maryland yesterday. Officials said one other person who was also in the house made it out alive. The Maryland State Fire Marshal Master Deputy said they don't believe the fire was intentional.
I can confirm that the fire did originate on the right side of the house within an enclosed porch. So certainly on the porch, there's multiple things, grills, smoking can be one of them. So we're looking at all accidental causes.
All 6 victims were taken to the chief medical examiner in Baltimore. The tragedy is under investigation. Al Jazeera English news director disputes Israel's claim that one of its reporters who was killed in an Israeli airstrike was a Hamas leader. Anas al-Sharif and 4 other Al Jazeera journalists were killed in the strike in Gaza last night. The outlet called it a targeted assassination. The IDF has said there's unequivocal proof al-Sharif was tied to Hamas.
We have the evidence. Head of a terrorist cell in Hamas's guided rockets platoon in the East Jabalia Battalion, associate of Yahya Sinwar, and a key player in Hamas's propaganda machine.
Ahead of his summit with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Alaska Friday, President Trump says Ukraine will have to give up some of its land that Russia's invaded. The National News Desk, Atra El-Nashar, reports.
Days before he meets with Russia's president for what President Trump calls a feel-out meeting seeking to end the war in Ukraine, the leader of the free world seeming to make concessions on Ukraine's behalf.
There'll be some land swapping going on. I know that through Russia and through conversations with everybody to the good, for the good of Ukraine. Good stuff, not bad stuff. Also, some bad stuff for both.
Ceding territory to Russia is something Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has long rejected.
Russia's desires to rule over Ukrainian territories will remain just desires as long as Ukrainians stand shoulder to shoulder, helping the army and helping the state.
There's a lot on the line for President Trump, who promised voters he would bring an end to this war. Lately, he's acknowledged Putin hasn't been dealing with him honestly.
I believe he wants to get it over with. Now, I've said that a few times, and I've been disappointed because I'd have like a great call with him, and then missiles would be lobbed into Kiev or some other place.
Zelensky says over the past week, Russia has used more than 1,000 aerial bombs and 1,400 attack drones against Ukraine. European leaders standing firm with Ukraine in a joint statement saying, in part, the path to peace in Ukraine cannot be decided without Ukraine. We remain committed to the principle that international borders must not be changed by force. President Trump is expected to huddle virtually with European allies ahead of the Friday summit. He says he'll also call them minutes after his meeting with Putin ends.
And I'm going to tell him what kind of a deal. I'm not going to make a deal. It's not up to me to make a deal.
The president shutting down speculation Zelensky could join them in Alaska.
I would say he could go, but he's gone to a lot of meetings. He's been there for 3.5 years. Nothing happened.
Already looking to future summits.
The next meeting will be with Zelensky and Putin, or Zelensky and Putin and me. I'll be there if they need.
For now, the world waits for Friday, when 2 of the world's most powerful men gather in the Arctic, their first face-to-face meeting in more than 7 years. I'm Atra El-Nashar for the National News Desk, America's News Now.
The newly formed tropical storm Erin is tracking west across the Atlantic Ocean. You can see the forecast path right there. Erin is the 5th named storm of the Atlantic season and is forecast to become the first hurricane. It is expected to strengthen slowly over the next few days and could turn into a hurricane as soon as Wednesday night. It's still too early to tell how Erin could impact the U.S. Crews are cleaning up from the historic flooding in Wisconsin that destroyed multiple homes and cars. You can see here the Milwaukee River running through the city's Riverside Park yesterday. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration says the river hit a high crest of 11.19 feet, a new record. Several roads are still closed today. Also, President Trump is reportedly again extending his China tariff deadline by 90 days. CNBC is reporting he signed an executive order preventing U.S. taxes on imports on Chinese goods from snapping back to near embargo levels. The order was signed a few hours before midnight when the deadline was set to lapse. If Trump did not press pause again, tariffs would have ratcheted up to 145% on all goods coming in from Beijing. The CEO of chip manufacturer Intel is meeting with President Trump at the White House today. The Wall Street Journal reporting Louboutin is expected to discuss his career and personal life with Trump and could propose business opportunities. This comes after Trump called for Tan's resignation last week over his suspected ties to Chinese companies and security concerns. Tan claims he has always operated within the highest legal and ethical standards. Ford is making another major investment into electric vehicle production. Today, the automaker announced it will spend $5 billion on a new assembly plant in Louisville and an EV battery plant in Michigan. The company says the assembly line will produce a new unnamed electric pickup truck model with a targeted retail price of about $30,000. Ford says these investments will help add or secure 4,000 jobs at both sites. Coming up next year on the National News Desk, new fallout from what the Trump White House refers to as Russiagate, why one top official is predicting we'll soon see indictments. Then new testing sets a record straight on levels of harmful contaminants in your daily cup of joe. Then what we know about a string of building fires in Utah that have all happened in 1 week. We'll be right back. Transcripts of the secret grand jury testimony in the Ghislaine Maxwell sex trafficking case will stay sealed. A federal judge says releasing the transcripts related to the late financier Jeffrey Epstein could erode confidence in future grand juries. It marks another setback for federal prosecutors. They wanted the documents unsealed to calm the wave of suspicion about what the government knows about Epstein. Meanwhile, a grand jury investigation is underway into the origins of what some call the Russia collusion probe. Top intelligence officials under President Obama insist they did nothing wrong. As Vice President J.D. Vance predicts, indictments will be coming down soon. The National News Desk, Christine Frizzell reports.
On links between the 2016 Trump campaign and Russia, current Trump officials are once again accusing former members of the intelligence community of, quote, aggressive violations of the law, predicting indictments will be coming.
They would take something that supported a Hillary Clinton campaign talking point and they would overemphasize it and exaggerate it. They took anything that actually contradicted that narrative and they buried it deep.
These documents, released last month by Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard, did name people she says were part of a conspiracy to subvert President Trump's 2016 victory and presidency, like Susan Rice, James Clapper, James Comey, and John Brennan.
It's my assessment that they clearly had a more favorable view toward Mr. Trump, and actions they were taking were trying to increase his prospects.
Some in the Trump administration have continued to argue that perspective was an example of intelligence officials playing politics, which Brennan denies.
The assessment made no judgment about whether or not these Russian influence operations had any impact on the outcome of the election. We didn't go there at all. We also didn't include in the assessment any reference to collusion.
With a recent announcement of the Justice Department's grand jury investigation, one question, say experts, if there was any daylight between what former intelligence officials said behind closed doors and what they told lawmakers on Capitol Hill.
What they said and what the intelligence that was actually showing them, there seems to be a gap there. So if the jury is inclined to charge elected officials or unelected officials with lying to Congress, that's where I think the greatest legal vulnerability would be.
Legal experts tell us a major issue for the Justice Department will be the 5-year statute of limitations. One thing we'll be keeping our eyes out for is whether books or articles written by former Obama administrations within the last 5 years are used as evidence in the case. I'm Christine Frizzell for the National News Desk.
Poor air quality due to Canadian wildfire smoke is again impacting several states. Air quality categorized as unhealthy in parts of Minnesota and North Dakota. Other states in the Midwest and Northeast are also impacted today. There are over 700 wildfires burning in Canada right now, with over 470 considered out of control. Over 1,000 firefighters in western Colorado are battling multiple wildfires. The Lee Fire in Rio Blanco County is now the 5th largest wildfire in the state's history, burning over 116,000 acres. Disaster emergencies are in place and several roads and wildlife areas are closed. Fires in Moffat and Arculeta counties forced residents of several cities to evacuate. Meantime, in California, Yuba County residents are under evacuation orders because of a fire officials say was spreading at a dangerous rate. The Ponderosa fire started just yesterday, and it is threatening several buildings. The state's largest wildfire of the year, the Gifford Fire, continues to displace residents in the Santa Barbara area. That one is now 33% contained. President Trump is thinking about reclassifying marijuana as a less dangerous drug. Marijuana is currently classified in Schedule 1, which means it has the highest potential for abuse. Other drugs in that category include heroin and ecstasy. A White House statement said when it comes to marijuana, quote, all policy and legal requirements and implications are being considered.
We're looking at it. Some people like it, some people hate it. Some people hate the whole concept of marijuana because if it does bad for the children, it does bad for people that are older than children. But we're looking at reclassification, and we'll make a determination over the next few weeks. And that determination hopefully will be the right one. It's a very complicated subject.
Coffee contains very few contaminants and toxins despite recent concerns. At least that's according to a new testing from Clean Label Project on 45 popular caffeinated coffee brands. It found minimal levels of things like pesticides, heavy metals, mycotoxins, and plasticizers. It determined that caffeinated coffee is one of the cleanest products ever tested. A new report gives most of the U.S. a failing grade when it comes to what we eat. Medical reporter Liz Bona shares a few simple food swaps that could make a difference.
This new report from the CDC shows most of us get more than half of the calories we eat each day from ultra-processed foods.
Those are foods actually engineered to taste so good, they encourage excessive eating. They also tend to be higher in calories, lower in fiber, and high in salt, sweeteners, and fats not considered good for good health. So, first simple food swap to reduce your intake?
Eat more fruits and vegetables.
Laura Brown is a registered dietitian and director of nutrition for the national Kroger supermarket chain.
Fruits and vegetables are so nutriently dense. They have all the vitamins and minerals your body needs, but also dietary fiber.
Upping your fiber is a second way to reduce processed food intake. A study in the journal Nature found when people did eat fewer processed foods, even when compared to diets with similar calories, the unprocessed eaters lost twice as much weight. Higher dietary fiber may be one reason why.
It's that good carbohydrate that helps clean your system out. So it helps you go be nice and regular, keeps your blood cholesterol nice and low, and really just helps you to feel good.
Finally, third swap, drink something other than regular soda pop. Unsweetened iced tea, water, milk, and real fruit juice can keep your drinks ultra-processed free. A good reminder for kids, too, since this CDC report found they're getting more than 60% of their calories from ultra-processed products.
Now, just so you know, it doesn't have to be all or nothing. Just a few of these swaps can really add up. With your health news, I'm Liz Bonus reporting.
Paramount strikes a $7.7 billion deal to show Ultimate Fighting Championship events in the U.S. The 7-year agreement with UFC's owner will allow Paramount to stream select marquee events and fight nights on Paramount+. Paramount says it's moving away from the UFC's pay-per-view model to give subscribers more access to premium events at no extra cost. Some marquee events will also broadcast on CBS when the deal kicks off next year. AOL is ending its dial-up internet service after more than 30 years. The company says it routinely evaluates its products and decided to end the service on September 30th. You may remember the distinct sound of dial-up, which gained popularity in the 90s and early 2000s by connecting to the internet through a landline. How could we forget? Coming up, the crime that business owners in one major city that say they're having to deal with over and over again. That's right after this. We have reporters all across the country in your neighborhoods covering issues that matter to you. We are taking the pulse of America, but we start with yet another fire investigation putting residents on high alert in Utah.
Another structure fire in Ogden, this time at a building under construction. The flames lit up the night sky and left neighbors shaken.
It was just a wall of fire through the trees. If they had jumped over into those trees, we got 3 houses right here that are just, 15, 20 feet between the houses. We all would have went up.
Brian Doan was one of many residents who rushed out as flames erupted just before midnight.
I hadn't had a fire drill like that since I was in elementary school. I jumped up, grabbed my shoes, ran out the backyard, and I looked through just over the fence.
But what has neighbors most alarmed is the frequency and the similarity of these fires. In the past year, at least 3 other structures in Ogden have caught on fire.
The community is definitely suspect of what's happening here.
Yeah, I was shocked at the force of that tree going through the front.
Kevin Leyendecker was away from his Menasha home during Saturday afternoon storms as they swept through. While he was out, his Ring camera sent a notification for something to his phone. That something was this tree falling and blowing over to block Leyendecker's garage. But that wasn't all.
The roof shingles were all lifted up. We put down as many as we could, tarped up the rest. The trees had blown into the gutters in the house, busted the siding on the two sides, and then hit the garage.
Leyendecker says his biggest concern is the damage to the roof. Despite the storm pulling shingles off, he says he hasn't noticed any water leaking into the house, but overall considers himself lucky.
Could have been a lot worse, yes. I could have been putting a tarp across my whole roof or lost a roof or whatever.
Employees at 2 smoke shops in West Seattle are picking up the pieces after 2 destructive smash and grabs.
I mean, the first thing that I thought was just, wow, like, again, or someone, you know, like, it's horrible that it just keeps happening to all of us.
Seattle police responded to an alarm and found a stolen gold Kia used to crash into the building. Police say 6 masked men arrived in 2 vehicles and got away with merchandise.
The shock is to see that somebody can drive through the front of your store and no one knows, and that they don't get prosecuted.
The day before, thieves in a stolen black Kia targeted the West Seattle smoke shop. The manager tells me it's not the first time this has happened.
But it was around the 10th time that it happened already. We do one thing and then it just gets broken down, and then we build it up again and it gets broken down.
Coming up next, the latest in the battle over redistricting maps in Texas. Just how long the governor says this might last. The Texas House adjourned today without reaching a quorum for the 8th straight day as Democratic lawmakers continue their walkout over redistricting maps. It's an ongoing battle in the state as Republicans are hoping to pick up 5 seats in the House. Texas's governor has said he will keep calling lawmakers to the State House until enough Democrats show up to conduct the vote.
This could literally last years because in Texas, I'm authorized to call a special session every 30 days. It lasts 30 days. And as soon as this one is over, I'm going to call another one, then another one, then another one, then another one.
Governor Abbott there telling Fox News the Democrats who fled the state will have to stay out of Texas for years. You just heard it. If they want to evade arrest, the Democrats face $500 fines each day they hold up the vote. That's going to do it for us for this edition of the National News Desk. We invite you to join us again this evening as we cover President Trump's latest operation to combat drug cartels. That story, much more. I'm Dee Gatton here in Washington. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again tonight at 10.